Today we are talking about the second most important setting in your camera, the aperture. Creators, what's going on? This is Willy here with Fine Light Media, hooking you up with the latest tips, tricks, and reviews on all things photography and video. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and smash that notification bell so you don't miss out on weekly videos like this one. Think of the aperture as a hole that's built into your lens. Open up the hole wider and you allow more light to enter your lens. Make the hole smaller and you allow less light to enter your lens. Think of the action as a way to control the amount of light or the flow of light entering your lens. To adjust the lens aperture, go to the back screen of your camera. You will notice a number with an F in front of it. This number represents the position of your aperture. Now this number can be a bit confusing at first, and that's because it kind of worked backwards. But don't freak out just yet. Allow me to elaborate. A bigger F number is a smaller aperture, and a smaller F number is a larger aperture. It's relatively easy to control it on a Canon camera. Just hold down the AV button on the back of your camera, and just like with shutter speed, you can then turn the control dial on the top of your camera to adjust the F number. In some instances, if your camera has touchscreen capabilities, you can do it right off the screen. There you have it. But more than letting in more or less light, aperture affects the depth of field, which is basically about the sharpness, not necessarily of your subject, but what's in the foreground in front of your subject and what's behind your subject. In other words, the amount of background blur your image has. Suppose you want to be able to see your subject and your entire background sharp, crisp, perfectly clear. Well, you have to shoot your photo with a higher aperture, something like 8, 11, 22 or higher, to make sure you are capturing detail. But let's face it, it is not the most pleasing background. So if we open that aperture up as wide as it goes to 1.4, it creates that creamy background blur, or bokeh as it's often called, while your subject is still tag sharp focused. Now with the aperture all the way open, we are going to have tons of light coming in. So we'll have to make the shutter speed faster so it's not capturing as much light. But what happens when you're shooting in a well-lit scenario like outside on a sunny day, and your shutter speed is where it should be and your aperture is low at 1.4 because you want that nice blurry background? What happens then? Well, at this point you're back to square one because both of those settings let in a lot of light and your image is now overexposed. So to use both of those low settings, you have to buy an ND filter for your lens, which will knock down the light intake, giving you a correct exposure. Now wait, what if the complete opposite happens? What if you shoot in a low light situation with your shutter speed at 50%, your aperture at 1.4, and your image is still underexposed? That's when you introduce the third setting into the equation, the ISO. Check out the third video on this 3-part video series titled ISO to complete the exposure triangle. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until the next time, catch you guys on the flip side.